The vehicle that we've got in the shop today is a 2006 Jeep Wrangler. We're going to be replacing the electrical portion of the ignition switch. I'm going to show you step by step how to get to it, what you need to take off, and what special tools you might need. With that, let's go ahead and get started. In order to gain access to the electrical portion of the ignition switch, we're going to have to get the shroud taken off around the steering column. This vehicle happens to be a right-hand drive. It's going to be a little bit easier to show you by filming. We've got approximately, make sure I quote you right here, I'm showing there to be 2 Phillips screws, one here and one over here. They're at the furthest forward portion. I say forward, they're by the steering wheel itself. You'll see 2 larger recess holes. That's what we're going to back out the Phillips screws. Alright, that's one. Go ahead and move on to the second one. Just got to kind of stick the screwdriver up in there till you feel it line up. There we go. Alright, I'm going to let that come out. Now we're going to work on getting the shroud apart. Now this has a steel column, which is good, so we can lower it all the way down. Alright, now it's all the way out. Now we can pull the boot, for example, on the headlamp switch on the other side. We can pull the boot, and then we can start popping that shroud off. Alright, now we go ahead and gain access and just pull to release the upper portion of the shroud from the lower, set to the side. Now on the bottom portion, you need to clear the portion of the ignition switch there, the cylinder, and we're going to work it around the tilt level. Now we've actually got a lot more access to what we need. Now the ignition switch, the electrical portion is actually going to be on the back side of the key cylinder. It's actually on the far left side versus the key being on the right side. So on the left side of the steering column, we're going to start working on gaining access to get to the electrical portion of the ignition switch. We'll go ahead and move on to that as well. The electrical portion of the ignition switch is kind of partially obstructed by the multifunction switch that's mounted here on the top. It kind of overhangs the switch itself. So we need to grab us a T20 Torx and work on getting this multifunction switch out of the way. We've got 2 fasteners on the top. Okay, let's keep that to the side. Now it should just lift straight up. Now you can, if you want, go ahead and start disconnecting the wires going to the multifunction switch. There's one on the far right side that has a lock on it. Once you get to the lock and release it, you should be able to squeeze the connector and pull it out. Basically the same scenario on the far left as well. There's a lock on that connector. There we go. Squeeze it and start trying to wiggle it out. Alright, we're getting closer. Now we've got there's actually been some wiring done to this. We got one smaller connector, but what we're going to do is actually leave it attached. We're just going to let it hang. Now we've got access to get to the other side of the steering column and go ahead and get that electrical portion off. We'll go ahead and show you what the replacement part looks like. As you can see, this is where it's located currently. So this is basically it. We've got one attachment here. That's going to be a T10 Torx, but it's also a T10 tamper-proof Torx. Now the difference between the two is on your typical Torx, you just have the recess assembly that you actually stick your tool in and turn. On a tamper-proof, there's actually a raised portion in the center, which would prevent a normal Torx screwdriver or any kind of socket or whatever to get in there to get it out. So you got to purchase yourself or use a tamper-proof. It's probably not showing up too well on the camera, so I apologize. But the end of this Torx on the end of this handle actually is drilled, and being that it is drilled, it has the accommodation to fit over a tamper Torx screw. So unless you got that, you won't be getting it off. So we're going to go ahead and jump down here, release the connector, take that T10 off, and then I'm going to show you how to work it out. Alright, so we've released the lock on the connector for the electrical portion and squeezed it. Now we got it out of the way. Now we're going to work on that T10 tamper proof. It's going to take a little bit of time backing it out slowly. We'll have a lot of room. And once we get that basically ready, just go ahead and slide it off the steering column, and then go ahead and grab our new one. And what we want to do is orient it to where the portion, the slot for the ignition switch key cylinder will line up. Once we got them both oriented in the same position, then all we're going to do is just reinstall this tamper-proof Torx and the connector. Alright, so at this point, what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and pry the electrical portion off from the column. Now, it kind of snaps onto the key cylinder assembly with 2 fingers. But all you got to do is just pry gently. She will pop right off. And there you go. One thing you want to keep in mind is you need to inspect this area really good that comes out and make sure nothing's broke off. Because what you may find from time to time, the aluminum portion that sticks out of the key cylinder that goes into the electrical portion can break to where the switch only does certain things. It may come on to the run position, but it will not start the vehicle. And then once you take this off thinking it's possibly your electrical portion, you find out the linkage between the two is actually broke, and then you have to replace that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to putting the new one in. And like I said, just make sure you oriented the new switch to where the old one is. If you need to, you can get up in there with a flat tip screwdriver, rotate the switch assembly around to where it lines up to the old one. That way when you're ready to install, everything will line up perfectly. All you got to do is snap it back in place and line up that Torx. And then as you've seen while watching the video, it's nothing too difficult. I pretty much showed you what you need to take off, what tools you might need. Mainly you're going to need that tamper-proof T10 driver to get it off. Without that, you're not going to get it out. Otherwise, just make sure you line everything up going back. The installation is just the opposite of removal. Nothing special whatsoever. You saw everything that I can tell you. With that, I greatly appreciate you watching my videos. Always stay tuned for more. Thank you.